So last time we talked about things about Git and Git operations, especially with the things where we have to think about rebasing, merging. Those two strategies are the basic way of doing code conflicts. Okay, we will get code conflicts anyhow, anytime, and you can either rebase or you can either merge those requests. So I hope you guys have gone through the basics that I have given. What is the difference between a rebase and a merge? So I'm assuming that you guys know the difference. I have done it in practical session, so you guys can see what is there and what is the process of a rebase, what is the process of a merge. Okay, they look kind of similar. At the end, a merge will go to the latest change and check with your current code. But if you are doing a rebase, it will go by one commit by commit and until you reach your code with the current head. So both are good. Okay, your organization might use something else, but from my personal experience, I would prefer a rebase because I know step by step what will go wrong, what is going on each and every commit, and what's need to be changed. And also make sure when you are doing a PR, your PRs is small. Okay, pull request should be very small, and that means you should be able to read it without an effort. You don't have so many changes, because if you having so many changes, then the person who is reviewing the PR will have hard time. So make sure when you are doing a pull request, the changes are at a minimal point, so you guys can easily see what is wrong, what is changed, and what sort of changes are affecting all the other flows. Okay, so I think we discussed on SSH last time, but we have not used it properly. Like we have created SSH tree for GitHub. So we use some commands to generate the SSH key, where we have one SSH key in our machine, and there is another SSH key, the public one at least we have shared with GitHub. And by using the SSH key, what we have accomplished was we were able to communicate with the GitHub servers without using any username or passwords. So in this scenario, what we'll do is we'll continue to use more things with the terminal. Okay, so by using these terminal commands, you guys will get more interaction with the terminal, and there will be a lot of commands that you guys will learn. So if you are new to these commands, have a note down while we are doing these things, what it does and what sort of things these commands will do. Okay, so it is a learning experience if you are new to these commands, and if you do not have experience on these commands, you guys can execute yourself right now and check what's happening over there. So so I am in my project directory, which is SC4103 2023. So within this directory, I have opened the terminal from here. Okay, and I can see where I am right now by simply typing pwd. Pwd will list out where I am right now currently in the directory structure. Okay, so I have Linux-like directory structure. So we have users by name, documents, projects, websites, and this is the directory. So this is the directory I am currently in. So I can pv it out by using the pwd command. Okay. So if you do not know pwd, just take a note down on that. And so I want to see all the things that is within this directory. So I can provide ls. So ls will give a list of files that is within this directory. So I can see, okay, there are a few jpg files, there is a text file and readme and all those things. So if I want more information, I can say ls minus a. So it will list down all the what is the current directory, what is the whether there is a parent directory, and if there are any hidden files. If you guys can see that .git is normally hidden for Linux and Macintosh system. So Unix-like system hide any directory starting with a dot. So you guys can see that it is hidden. Now, since I put ls minus a, it will give me more information. So what are if I want to know what are the other hidden features with the ls command, I can say ls dash dash help. Okay. Is it h? Maybe ls help. No. I think ls has no command. So other command is what we can do is I can use the man command. Man is for manual, and what is the command that I am want to explore. So I want the manual of ls. So the command is man space ls. So it will give me a manual about the ls command. So you guys can see it says general command manual, and the name for this one is ls. Okay, and it give a brief description about what it is going to do. So ls will list all the directory contents and a description, what sort of things you can do, what sort of things you can expect, and these are the options available. So you guys can see there is capital A, capital B, capital C, and probably the capital A, simple A, one that we have used, minus A, include directory entries whose name begin with a dot. Okay, so it's A. And you guys can see there is something like H option, which is showing the size and all these things. And there are a lot. I don't expect you guys to remember each and every one of these things, but at least know these are there, and you guys get familiar with what are with the most common commands that will be there for at least common options which are used every time. So if I go, you guys can see this manual goes on, and if you want to exit from this manual, just you guys can see there is a single dot around this area, 2 dots. So that's where we are right now. If you press Q at any point, it will exit from the command line. So to get the manual of any command, use the man.ls command. And if you want, let's say for example, I want to know about pwd, you can say man pwd. So it will say what is pwd. It will return the working directory name and what are the options. Seems to be this is a very small command, pwd. And if I want to quit, I will just quit. And if you want to know the manual about man as well, you have the approach, display online manual documentation on page. So you can see what man is about. So man is a command that you guys can at least get to know what are the things, what are the commands and it is usages. Okay, so I think we have Excel document where you guys have all your names, right? Who is having that list with you guys? All the student names. Who is having that? Yes, send it me with chat while we are doing that. Okay, I need that list. Okay, the other one, other command that we will be using here is going to be, of course, you know the command git. Okay, where you guys can do any git commands. We talk fast about that. And there is a nice command called clear, so which will clear out what are the existing things that you can see within the terminal. If I hit clear, and it will go and start like a new starting point. But if you are to scroll up a little bit, you guys can always see what is the command execution. It's just going to clear out the current screen and give you a fresh starting point for you guys. Okay, that's it. So so we talked about several commands. If you are new, make a note on those things, and if you know all those things, just refresh your memory on it. Okay. All right. So next thing that we will be talking about something called SSH. Okay. So SSH is so you guys can obviously see man SSH. So you can see open SSH remote login client. Okay, so what we'll do is by using SSH command is we'll be connecting to a machine which is not which is within our network, but it is somewhere else. Destination is somewhere else. Okay, for example, I have my Raspberry Pi. If you guys know what a Raspberry Pi is, it's a mini computer. You guys can see in my screen right now. So this is the Raspberry Pi computer that I'm having. Okay. So if I am connecting this, if I want to connect to this machine, this local machine that I have, I just need to power it up. There is a power port in here, and once I am powered in, I can log into this machine. But like a remote login with SSH, you won't have anything like a UI, okay, but you will get a terminal. So this is like the norm for other servers as well. So if you have other servers, for example, Linux servers that you guys are interested in, definitely they will not provide a huge UI that you can log in, but it will provide you guys with a terminal that where you can log in. Okay, that is like the that is like how we gonna connect to a machine, a remote machine. Right now, I have set up my Raspberry Pi to accept SSH connection. Otherwise, if your remote machine does not accept SSH, that means secure shells, open shells, you can't log in. Okay, so you need a way of authenticating to this machine. The most common way is actually using a username and password. Okay, for my Raspberry Pi over here, I have username and password authentication mechanism. So I can simply type in my username and password, then I can log into this machine. So my Macintosh right now, what I'm where I'm doing my lectures is gonna be the client. Okay, from this machine, I am gonna connect to the Raspberry Pi. So I call my local machine, this one, a client. Okay, this is the client, the where I am trying to connect. So this is gonna be my host or the server. This is the place that this is the destination that I am gonna be connecting to. Okay, so from the client, I do a request to the server, and if the server is SSH enabled, that means they are allowing to remotely connect to my machine. And if I provide the correct credentials, then I can log into this machine. Okay, and while we are doing that, make sure you guys, since this is a Raspberry Pi, I have not connected this to internet as of now, but if I want to connect to this machine and SSH server is configured, user is allowed, and everything is done, the next thing that I need to make sure is the connectivity. If we are in two different networks, there is no way to reach this machine. There is the only way that we can reach out to a machine is by living in the same network. Okay, we should have at least some way of connecting. Okay, even though we are in different networks, the destination should be reachable. Okay, so if I am isolated in another network and I do not have any access to this machine, so I can't access it anyhow. So only way to access these kind of machines is the destination should be reachable, and the SSH client and or the server where the host is, the SSH in this scenario, my Raspberry Pi, should have SSH enabled, SSH server enabled, and make sure SSH is done via port 22. Okay, the port 22 is the SSH port. So you need to make sure you are not blocked by any firewall or something like that, that you can't reach port 22. Otherwise, the SSH will not work. So make sure your SSHing is done, and you guys can you can correctly connect these things. So right now I am in a different network where my Raspberry Pi is configured. What I can do is I can switch the network. So give me a second. I will switch my network. Everyone can hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. So I just switched my network. So currently my Raspberry Pi, you can see it is powering on. Yes, you can see. And this server now is accepting connections. And what I need to do is I need to know few things to connect to this. First of all, make sure my connection is in the same as my Raspberry Pi. So I have configured my home network to have the Raspberry Pi and my machine, my client machine, which is my Macintosh, is in the same network. Now I am assured that my destination is reachable. Okay, so my destination is reachable. Now what I have to do is I need to know what is the address of this machine. Okay, what is the address of this machine? So the address, how do I know the address of this? So I have configured my router, which is my local router, in a way that every time my Raspberry Pi connects, I give it a static IP address. That means each and every time when this machine is connecting to my network, since you guys can see I don't have a display or anything, since this machine is powered on, as soon as it is powered on, it's gonna find all the network out there, and I have also provided the credential for my local network, this one. And once it is connected, it's gonna have a static IP. That means the IP is not gonna change as soon as this one is connected. Okay, so I have a static IP. The IP address is a local IP address, and it is always going to be the same address. That's how I programmed it. So if you guys are connecting to a server, which is in internet. We will do it soon as well. It will give us an IP address as well. It has an IP address where we can connect. So sorry, the IP address is important as well as the credentials. Okay, so we know the destination. So we have to have the credential. So I'm gonna connect to my Raspberry Pi using SSH. So I have to provide SSH, and I need to provide the username that I am gonna be connecting. Okay, so I'm gonna provide my credential. There is a user that I have created in this machine called Randika. When you are creating a machine or virtual box, you will get the same thing. What is the username? Most probably it will be something like root or Ubuntu or CentOS. There'll be a default user for this. I have created a user called Randika in this local machine, and I have to provide an @ symbol that indicates where I am going to connect to. So I am connecting SSH as Randika at this IP address. So this is the IP address of my Raspberry Pi 192.168.8.133. This is my local IP address. So hopefully, if everything is set up correctly, I have my Raspberry Pi connect to the machine, and it is in the same network. So if I hit enter, now you guys can see it is asking for a password. So I have mentioned this is my username, and I want to connect to the machine which is in this IP address. And it is asking, okay, if you want to connect, what is your password? So I'm going to enter the password that I have given. And now you guys can see that it prints out several stuff. So it's starting from here. So you can see Linux, Raspberry Pi, what is the operating system, architecture, and what is the OS that we are using. I'm using Debian GL Linux, and there is some warnings, and this is my last login time for this user. Okay, I have logged in August 4th, that was like yesterday. I have logged into this machine. Now you guys can see that earlier my terminal is showing Randika at Randika's MacBook Pro. This is the location of my local machine, which is to be said my Macintosh. Right now, it is showing Randika at Raspberry Pi. That means I am successfully connected to my Raspberry Pi machine. Right now, I am connected to this machine, and this I am accessing this machine's hardware or whatever the things it is available in here. So you guys can see that now I have made a successful connection, and I have logged into that machine. Now I am within the server, and I have pre-configured few things before I connect. Okay, first thing is I have created a user. That is obvious. I need to have a user to log into this machine. I have enabled SSH server. Okay, I have enabled the SSH server, so I can connect from the clients. So my Macintosh is acting as a client right now. I can connect from the client if and only if the server is enabled. And I have blocked the port 22, unblocked the port 22. That means without, I know for sure port 22 is not blocked in somewhere. And I have a direct connection. I have a location where I need to connect. Okay, so using SSH as the user Randika, I will connect to the machine at this IP address. Okay, so if it is not an IP address, you might get an address as well. So like www dot or something like that. Not going to be starting with www dot most of the time, but some IP at some rememberable name you might get, but most of the time we will be connecting using IP4 IP6 addresses. Okay, so right now I am in my Raspberry Pi. So if I hit ls, if I say cd, and if I say / that means I'm gonna change directory for the root. And if I say pwd, sorry, pwd in here. Now I am at my root directory. Okay, so I can ls in here as well. Now you guys can see it's different than my local machine, because my local machine is running Macintosh, and this one is running Debian Ubuntu, and the folder structure is a little bit different. So you have like a lot of things going on. So I can check the status of my machine, at least how many storage, what is the storage capacity, and what is the occupancy of the storage. I can say df minus h. Okay, so df minus h will print out the availability of my machine's file system. Okay, you can see the file system. I have 58 gigabytes. I think it was like a 64 GB SD card that I have put into my Raspberry Pi, and it is showing around like 58 gigabytes. And I have used 8.6 of it, and available I have like 47 GBs used in here. And I have used like 16% of it, and all the other places which are like occupying the disk. So this is like the main file system where I can see my all the available space. So if you use df minus h, you will get an idea on how and what is the percentage of the storage that I have used so far. So I'm doing pretty good at the storage. I have like 58 gigabytes, and I have 47 out of it. So what else that I can do with this machine? So I can see whether I have internet connectivity. So I will use something like command like a ping and www.google.com. So I can check whether I am able to connect to google.com from here. So at least at this point, I can assume that I have internet connectivity, and ping and whatever the IP, whatever the domain name that I'm going to do, and it will ping the servers. Okay. To stop this ping, I would simply say Control C. Okay. By doing Control C, it will terminate the process. So right now you can see I have sent 23 packet and received 21. So it's like 8% time lost is there. So there is not much, like it's not zero. So I have connectivity. I have the I can use internet in this machine, not the way that you guys have seen, like using a browser or something like that. But at least I can execute commands and download files using command line tools. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out, and uh, I have the capability of checking the internet connectivity. I have seen what sort of things that is execute, and I have also I can see what are the processes running in this machine. So it is not going to be running a desktop simulator or something like that. But if I say ps minus a, and it will show what are the things that I am running right now. And if you say ps right now, it does not run anything, any processes other than these two processes. So I am running a bash command, which is like the shell that I am accessing under the process ID 443. And there is a ps command, which is the command that I executed recently, which is having the process ID of 484848. Okay, and I can see what are the CPU and memory stats using the top command. I'm not sure whether I have installed. Okay, by default top is there, so you guys can see what sort of process in whole the machine is running. You guys can see that it is up for 12 minutes. One user is logged in. That is me at this point. and what is the CPU usage, what is the memory usage, and those kind of useful information. If you want to monitor the system, it's going to be there. By running the top command, you guys can see how much CPU a certain process is taking in, and what sort of task it is currently running. Okay, nothing that we are familiar with. The top command is actually running. The command itself is running, and it is taking 1% of the CPU and 0.3 of my memory. So other softwares are the vital things for running the operating system. These are running in here as well. So you guys can see what sort of things that we are running within this machine. Okay, so it's really easy that we can see what are the things we are running in this machine. Okay, so you guys have seen few commands. I will press Command C or Control C in your case. In my case, also it's Control C to terminate the running process. That means I'm gonna get out of the executing command, and I will do a clear. So I will clear out the things. So still I am currently in my Raspberry Pi. So if I want to terminate the connection with the server, if I want to terminate the connection with the SSH server, I can do a close in here, so the terminal will get will exit, and I will have a normal one. Or the best way is that I would press Control D in this scenario, Control D. So it will issue an logout command, and it will say connection to this IP address is closed. Now I am back in my local machine. Okay, the local machine. I have came back to the local machine where I was working. Okay, so this is my client right now. So I have disconnected from my server. Okay, so any questions up until this? Anything that you guys need more exploration? Anything that you need to explain with these commands? Let me know right now. Who here have at least heard 5 commands that we have executed here? I have known 5 of these commands at least. Yeah, there is 1 student. That is really good. 2, yeah, at least 5 commands. If you guys know, I think we talked about these things. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, any command that you guys know, that's perfectly fine. I think you guys have worked on these commands. That is good. That is perfect. All right. So rest your hands down. Anyone in here work with SSH? Okay, I have worked with SSH. I have worked with SSH. Sasindu, you have worked with SSH? Okay. Goes from the past. Anyone here have anyone who is here learning SSH for the first time? I am learning SSH for the first time. Okay. Okay, good. So raise your hand, raise down your hand. So SSH is the SSH is one of the like common command that you will be using throughout this course, because we will be logging into servers, we will be executing some stuff. We will do some scripting and all those things. So in order to working with a remote server, you need SSH at least for Linux and other machines. So if you want some GUI related stuff, like a mouse is like your buddy, then you will probably need a remote desktop connection, which I do not recommend because a lot of servers do not run remote servers unless they are Windows. So for some reason, most of the time we will be connecting to a machine where it's in a state where there is no GUI presented for you. You just have to connect via SSH or something similar. Most of the time, SSH is the one that we are using to connect to servers. Okay, so I will one more time I will connect to my server because I'm no longer needing this machine to be turning on. By the way, it is also powered by my power bank, so I don't use electricity, at least while I have charged everything. So the main reason that I'm using this, I have programmed this machine to get any updates and everything at 12 o'clock. So what I do before I going to sleep, I plug this in and I leave it out there, and by 12 o'clock it start get all the updates that I need, and by 8 o'clock it's gonna stop all the downloading that I am doing, getting the uploads and everything. So it is acting like a nighttime data buddy. So I don't have to wait until 12 o'clock to get all the updates. I just need to make sure, okay, I'll put you some links. By 12 o'clock, you start downloading, and by the 8 o'clock, you stop downloading. So I am utilizing my nighttime data, which is available. So I can use that. So you guys can have a pet project like this. It's coming in handy. You will learn a lot of things when you're doing things. How to configure a Raspberry Pi, how to configure a server, how to troubleshoot, how to do a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not sure the price of a Raspberry Pi these days. It's spiked up a little bit. I got this like maybe 4 or 5 years back, and it still works, and surprisingly, and you just need the SD card and you can work on it. Also, you have other models. This one is Raspberry Pi 3, and I'm not sure whether I have a very smaller version. Let me check. Can't find it. Have somewhere. I'll show you guys the next time. It's a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's even more smaller than this, but it has limitations. I use those things for automation at my home. Apparently, I can't find it. Okay, so that's a site tour, and I'm gonna shut down this machine since I am no longer in use of it. I will say sudo shut down now. Okay, so if you shut down, so sudo is like substitute user do, that is like giving admin privileges to do something. If I say shut down now, the user have less privileges. The current user I am logged in is Randika. Randika has no permission for interacting such a command. So what I do is I will say sudo shutdown. Okay, sudo shutdown means I have elevated privileges. Using that privileges, shut down now. Okay, so you guys can see the remote connection is closed because once this one is shut down, I can no longer connect to it, and I am back in my local machine. Okay, so I am gonna put my Raspberry Pi out for now, and yes, so we have the SSH connection, and we know how to connect to a server. So right now, what I am gonna do is, since I did this in a local machine, I can also do this in a virtual machine as well. So anyone here have a virtual machine installed? I have VMware or something, some sort of virtualization software. Yeah, only one. So if you guys if you guys need virtualization, you guys can check what is that VirtualBox. Sorry, you guys can check VirtualBox. There is paid version VMware. VMware, I think I have free version. I'm not sure, but VirtualBox is free as far as I used it last time. So you can spin up a VirtualBox, then a virtual machine will be there, and you can practice this kind of SSH connect if you want to connect to that virtual box, and you can work with that machine. So that is an option. So virtualization is something that you guys should do in a separate section. I'm not going to go into virtualization. Just install the virtual box and SSH to that virtual box using these SSH commands. Okay, all right. Any questions up until this? Anything that I need to clarify? Okay, good. So why I am teaching you these commands, because ultimately configuration management will be something that we need to connect to a server. We need to configure stuff of our own. We need to set up things of our own. So those kind of things will not be easy unless you know these commands. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go with some other things, like how we're going to do CI/CD pipelines. Okay, so that is one of the course modules, core parts that we need to do after this configuration. So how do we gonna deploy this application? Okay, so we have created a simple application which works in our local machine. If I ls and I say open index.html, it's gonna open in my browser, and let me see. Okay, this is our mind-blowing web application that we have created. Right now it is running in my local machine, but when we do changes to this website, when we accept more pull requests, when we develop this application as we go on, what we need is we need a way to have these things deployed in a server where we can see this by everyone else out there. Okay, so the main thing earlier on, before CI/CD pipelines and things come on, what we have is we build this application. Right now there is zero build step including this application, because it's like a very plain old a project. Okay, but in a professional application, there will be we will try to create something using some of the languages, or be using a build tool or some sort of things. But for now, our application is very simple. Our application is very simple. Our application is having just a few things in here. It's going to be this index file, and index files is going to save all the things that we need. So, but in real world, this is not going to be the case. You don't have like a small index file to be deployed. You will have certain build steps to going on. Like you need to build this application. Like if you know applications like mobile applications, like if you have done Android development or iOS development, first you need to build the application and uh, you need to run all the test cases, whether the test cases are running and tests are passing, and if the test cases were executed if the test cases were executed and these things are working, we will do some checkup. Okay, this application is working as expected. Now what we need to do is we need to deploy this application in a server. Okay, so that kind of steps are there when we do a deployment. Okay. So so what we'll do is next is what we'll do in next right now. What we'll do right now is learn the CI/CD process. Okay, so how things are like gonna be how things are gonna be executed in CI/CD pipeline. What sort of things that we should worry about? So first thing, anyone have here used any CI/CD integration tools? I have used CI/CD integration tools. For example, I have used GitHub Actions, I have used Bitbucket pipelines, or third-party things like Spinnaker or Jenkins. Anyone have any idea on using those automation tools like CI/CD pipeline tools? Okay, so there are a lot of options out there where we can check. Uh, um, initial Initially I would go with something simple like GitHub Actions, because right now our source code is also in GitHub. So we will try out GitHub Actions. Okay, GitHub Action will trigger out a way where we can deploy a workflow. Okay, so there are like a lot of continuous integration things that we can do in here GitHub Actions. So what our process is going to be whenever we are doing some the changes that we are doing in our application, and we are trying to push our codes, and we will run an action. That means some process where it will check all the things are in order, and if things are in order, it will deploy the application somewhere else. Okay, so there are pre-configured ones deploying these applications to different places and different locations. Okay, so these platforms are considered advanced use cases if you are using something not simple. So we have a static HTML configuration, so we can utilize a static HTML configuration by GitHub Action. That means they have a few steps that is pre-written for us, so we don't have to configure it manually. We will take we can actually configure a workflow ourselves, that is like building it from the ground up. We can certainly go with that part as well. So it will have the workflow most of the time a YML. Okay, this is like the YML file, which uh, is like instruction set. Okay, what are the things that we need to do? What are the things that we're gonna do within these steps? And when one of these steps are executed, we will get one of these flows kick in. Okay, so we will be using this workflow.main.yml. Once this configuration is done, the main.yml is configured correctly, what will happen is we will be able to execute a flow. Okay, right now there is nothing in here. There is no main flow defined for us. We need to do it manually. But rather than, what I will do is I will use, since I am using a static website and a static HTML, I will use this static configuration to do the job for me. So I will go pages and configure in here. All right. So you guys can see that this is the deployment workflow. This GitHub actions was coming up with. Okay, so this is for a static web page. This is not gonna work for every application out there. This is for just a simple static web page deployment. Okay, so we will go one by one, and remember the CI/CD pipeline that we are working in here is depending on the vendor. These things, these norms will change. For example, what are the action triggering point? What are the permissions? What are the jobs it's going to execute? These things will differ from the type of CI/CD pipeline tool that we will be using. Right now, we will be taking a simple steps, which is entitled, which is working with our application only on GitHub Action and deploying in GitHub Pages. Okay, so we'll be using GitHub Action to do the process, and GitHub Pages is where we're gonna deploy this application. Okay, so GitHub Pages have this nice option that we can deploy pages, static pages, so you guys can use it onwards. So for example, hrandika.github.io is one of my GitHub base pages. So this one is as long as you have a GitHub account and you have set up GitHub Pages, you can deploy your website in this manner. So this is not gonna have things like server-side, server-client communication, where you can do, you won't get a server or this kind of thing. It's gonna be a plain static website. As long as you can, see this, as long as the content is static, and there can be a little bit of dynamics things, but not that much. Very plain old application can be deployed in GitHub Pages. Okay, so our workflow is gonna be we will take this website. Okay, whenever we are doing whenever we are doing whenever we are doing deployment to our application, whenever we are doing some sort of change into our main branch, what will do it? It will deploy in GitHub Pages. It's going to end up somewhere, something like this. Okay. So one question, can we use this for create portfolios? Of course, you can. So as long as you don't have so much things in your dynamic contents, if you do not have dynamic contents, you can create a profile here. I think I have something similar, but I do not have that much content. It was like way back. Okay, again, I was trying to develop a blog, and it's have some content, but I'm not like actively maintaining this unless this lecture series that I'm conducting. Other things are not like that active at this moment. So you guys can develop a static website like this, and you can have profiles or whatever things. So this is like a basic web application. You can use this for your advantage, but remember, you can't have so many dynamic components into this. Just a very simple things that you can do. Okay, all right. So this is like a blog kind of thing. You can even copy paste this and take it into your use cases. Right now, it's like a plain old thing. So our goal is get this website, which is currently in my local machine, and whenever I do a change on my master branch, it will automatically deploy it to somewhere like this, somewhere in the GitHub pages. Okay, so that's how the CI/CD pipelines works. As soon as you do on a change on a certain branch, and you will have some other testing running in, as you have to do some test verification. But right now we do not have such a scenario. We will see in advanced section of this. But for right now, we will take whatever in the main master branch and put it in the GitHub pages. That's our goal. So let's go into the GitHub action definition in here. So when we are doing a deployment, when we are creating an action, we'll have to use these YAML files. Okay, so there is this static YAML. So first thing is that we need to name our flow, so that's easy for reference. Deploy static content to pages. So this is the name of the GitHub app action that we're going to be using. And on section or the on URL that we are in, I think you guys can see. Do a little bit. That is too much. So on in this section, that means as its comment suggests, run on pushes tag in the default branch. Okay, so if someone was able to push into the main branch, this workflow will start kicking in. Okay, that means workflows that's going to trigger this workflow. How this workflow is going to work is if somebody push to our main branch. If the main branch is active, then this will trigger up. So this is the on section. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be somewhat domain specific. That means this is this action. If you are using GitHub action, you will have this naming like the name on and everything. But the concept behind these things is going to be similar. Okay, if you have bucket pipelines, those will be using the same thing as you can see it in here. So allow is to run manually from the actions. So dispatch workflow, we don't need to work on that. So the set permission of the GitHub token to allow deploying to the GitHub pages. Okay, so we'll get into these things about the setting up the permissions and all. We can't just go and say, okay, deploy this to GitHub pages. We need some sort of some form of authentication to do that. So we will set up that as one here. So the permissions, the content is read, page is to write, ID token is to write. Okay, let's go on that if you have to. So the concurrency, this is like allow only one concurrent deployment, skips run queues between run progress to the latest queue. However, do not cancel in progress as you run allow to production deployment to complete. So that means, so what will happen? What will happen if there are multiple changes happen in the same time? Okay, so we have the main branch, so we get 2 pull requests at once, and the PRs like for in this instance, we are not expecting like huge CI/CD pipeline to run because it's like a very static page. But in a professional one, what will happen is when you start a single pipeline, it might run for several minutes. It will run for testing. It will run. It will do some lint checks. It will check the code quality. There will be several steps that we need to run. Okay, while these tests are running, there can be another update to the main branch if it is like very busy one. So what will happen? What should happen if such a scenario comes in? What should happen in such a case? So what we can do is we can say concurrent jobs. What should happen? Cancel on progress if it is fails. That means we are not allowing concurrency to kick in. Okay, we will look into these in much details. Just for now, we will have these things in mind. Okay, what is there is a permission model, there is a concurrency model, and there is an on model. This kind of things we just have it in our mind, and we'll see what's going on. And okay, so the next one is most commonly you will see jobs. Okay, jobs is like one-time things or things that should happen in here. So right now we only have one job in our application, which is called deploy. Okay, but remember, as I mentioned earlier, in a professional application, we will have some things like not only deploy, but there will be error checking, like link checking, and there will be things like executing unit test. There will be things like integration test, end-to-end test. There are a lot of testing periods, testing things that we need to go through. Sometimes if some application need building, that means you need to compile the application. There will be compiling happening on, and those things will be going on. So with the deployments, with these jobs, we can define, okay, first one is to build, second one is to run unit tests, third one is to deploy. So there can be multiple jobs. Right now, we only have one single job, which is to deploy the application. That's it. And the next thing is we need to configure the deployment in here, the environment that we are working with, and the name. So the name is going to be where we going to be deploying this thing. So right now we will be deploying into GitHub pages. And you guys can see that in here we have some step, and it's the steps. This is like what we call a variable in a scenario, like that. So this is the environment that we're gonna deploy, but where the URL for that is not gonna be something like that we have provided, but it's gonna take the deployment, one of the steps, and there is a variable out here. So how we can narrow it down, which variable that we are talking about? So you can see that $sign and there is two curly braces that indicate a variable references. Okay, and the variable that we are interested in, it's in steps. So do we have steps in here? You can see, yes, there we have steps. And that step, there are several steps, right? Your name and everything in here. And there is a step called deployment. Okay, the ID should be deployment. Yes, we have something like that. So in there, you will have something called outputs in this section. Deploy into these sub pages, you will have something called output. And once that output have the URL of page URL, there will be within the output, you will have another field called page URL. So that is the one that we are interested in. Okay, so you guys cannot see these things, but when we execute this part, when you are trying to execute this path, it will have these variables printed for us. Okay, so this is the environment, and this is a variable that we are interested in. Okay, and you guys need this to be these steps need to be executed somewhere, right? So this is a job, and this is the job is deployment, and we have set up the environment. Next thing is how do we execute these steps? Okay, we need some sort of execution happening. So how do we gonna execute these things? We will be using a latest Ubuntu machine. Okay, so in things like when we working with actions or CI/CD pipelines, these steps should run somewhere. Okay, these steps are not going to run out of thin air. So we need a machine. We need some sort of a machine to run these steps. Okay, so we need a run to do the builds. We need a machine to run the test and all sort of things. We need to have a machine to do these things for us. Okay, so how we gonna do that? We will be using a latest Ubuntu machine to do these things. So right now, for smaller and open source project, GitHub provides us free build time. Okay, so these things, the actions, execution, all those things will take some computational power to do so. Okay, and most of the free and open source, and there is a limitation. If I'm not mistaken, 100 build hours we call. So we have 100 build hours that we can run these applications. Okay, but if you having a huge application where the application will take much longer time to build and test, you will need to have, of course, they are not going to do it for free every time, because the computational power is expensive at some point. So out of the free tier, you might want to pay for the actions execution time. Okay, so right now I think we are good, since we are doing smaller things. What we'll do is we will use a latest Ubuntu machine, a virtual machine or something like that, and based on that we will execute these steps. Okay, so the first step that we're going to do in this job, okay, the deployment job, first thing that we need to do is the checkout. Okay, we need to check out the exact repository. Okay, if you guys can remember, if you want to if you are doing this in your local machine, if you want to execute these things, first thing that you need to do is check out the source code. Okay, so this is the name that is the step name that we're gonna do. We're gonna check out these things, and to check out, we can use custom commands, or we can use built-in commands provided to us by GitHub Actions. Okay, so by using built-in commands, it's easy for us. But if you have things like say for instance, you need to manually execute command, you can give those things as well, like set up scripts and all those things. Right now we will be using the default checkout actions provided by the action itself. Okay, we are not going to do our custom implementations. We will see how we can do custom implementation. Right now, we are not worried about checking out using our own tools, but rather than use what is existing out there. Okay, we will use actions checkout in here. So next thing is setting up the page. Okay, and this is also something GitHub is providing, because we are using GitHub services. So if you want to set up our applications using GitHub pages, you can use the setup page. You can use the action provided by configure pages version 3. So these things are pre-configured. Okay, these things are pre-configured. You don't have to do any manual steps. These steps are pre-configured for you. You don't you just have to have these steps in mind. Okay, you need to know, okay, first thing we need to check out, then we need to set up the pages, and the third thing is upload the artifact. That means once it is built, once it is done, what we have to do is we have to upload the artifact. We need to upload the content to the GitHub pages. Okay, so to do that, we will use the GitHub upload pages artifact. And what are the things that we can upload? We will be uploading all the checkout content. If you guys can remember, the main page have like few things. So we're going to upload all the things in here. So the dot represent the current directory, or the current content, the current content that we have in this scenario, the whole the application, like this application, these images, whatever you find out. Sorry, whatever you find out at the checkout location, we will upload those things. Okay, first checkout, set up the page, upload the artifact, and this third one is deploying the artifact into the GitHub pages. Okay, so it's all configured for us, since this is a very small setup. But we will see what other things like we can use. So we are using built-in actions. Okay, we are not using any custom one, but we can definitely use custom one in the scenario where we do not do the GitHub page deployment. But certain other things, if you use, we can have these things in our application. So right now we have a basic setup for our deployment. Okay, and this will be saved under the repository GitHub workflows, and this will be called static YML. So we are using the online version of the editor. So I don't need to get this in source code and push it back. I can directly online edit these changes. You can see there are like the files that I have already committed in my main branch. So I have everything in here. So what I need to do is this is the setup for the GitHub page deployment. Okay, the checkout and everything. We think this will be okay just for now. And what we'll do is this is the deployment YAML. In here we call this static YAML. We can have multiple YAML files. For now, we will use this GitHub action based YAML files, but in a custom project, in more advanced project, we should have these steps configured by our names. Right now, we have only one job, and that job is called deployment, and it has several steps. We will use these steps to first to check out, then set up. Third one is to upload the artifact, and this last one is to deploy it. Okay, so the configuration is done, and I'm happy with this configuration. It might not, it might run, it might not. So what I will do is I will commit these changes. That means I am adding this file GitHub workflow.stack.yaml to my main branch. Okay, I'll do a commit, and I can have a commit message just to simply, I will have that in here. So now you guys can see that static YAML is provided. And if I go to actions, and you can see that deploying static page to page number 1, commit push by Randika, and the action is running right now. Okay, so it's giving an error that is expected. So deploying, while we are trying to get the application into deploy, it got failed. Okay, that is expected. There we need to have some configurations done for the things, but we have not given the environment URL and everything, that the GitHub pages section. We haven't configured that correctly, so we are getting a fail. That is okay. What we have to do is we have to get the things in order. Now you guys can see, if I go to action, create static YAML, this is the commit that we were running. Okay, this it will trigger a commit on each and every branch. So if I go to code now, and you guys can see that GitHub workflow is there, and the static YAML is also there. And if I go to actions, and the create static YAML was the commit that I was trying to execute, and it got failed on deployment. You guys can see setting up the job was done, checking out was like done. You guys can see all the commands that we have executed, setting up job. So the current job version, let me zoom in. Current running version is this operating system. So you can remember we have used the Ubuntu run. Okay, and run an image. What is the image that we have used for these things? Okay, we will get into these things in a little bit later. Running image provisioner, GitHub token permissions, and secret source, and it is where the actions are getting, and preparing workflow, preparing action, downloading downloading action repository. That is the first step, and the configuring, upload, deployment, and these things are like the job setup. Now we will go one by one. If you guys can remember, the first one is the checkout step, and run checkout version. So this is the repository that we are checking out. You guys can remember, if you are using public or private, we might need a token to do this. Since this is a public one, I think the token is not important at now. And Git version info, what is the Git version that we have used? We have used 2.41. The temporary, this, like all the things are like how the checking out is done. initializing the repositories. You guys can go each step by step and see what's going on in here. And the checkout is actually worked as expected. The code is checked out, but we run into an issue with the setting pages up. Okay, so when we are trying to execute the next step, when we are trying to execute the second step of our job, it got failed. So error, you can clearly mention, we are trying to run the pages in here, but get page site failed. Please verify that the repository has page enabled and configured to build using GitHub Action, or consider exploring enablement parameter for this section. That means one of our configurations is not done correctly. That means we have not enabled page site for this repository. So if we only allow that settings to be enabled, then we will have the GitHub page deployment done for us. So these things are not configured as we speak. So what we need to do is we need to make sure the GitHub pages is enabled for this repository. Okay, let's what we can simply do is we can copy the error from here and GitHub Actions. We will do a Google search. Okay, so configuring the pages has failed. Let's see what we can do. And so we have to do some configuration. I created a web project using Next. Okay, so we went to setting pages in the fork project and set the source to GitHub Action. See the setting. Okay, so under settings, we have pages, and build and deployment source is sent to GitHub Actions. Okay, so we need to make sure this setting is there. That is at least what it is saying. So I think we did not do that part. So what we'll do is we'll go to our settings section, and we have pages, and you guys can see that the source is deployed from the branch, but we have the option of selecting GitHub pages. Okay, GitHub's actions. So we have enabled GitHub Actions for our page deployments. So this is for not for our repository, but for GitHub pages. Okay, do not get confused. So since we are using GitHub pages, we need to enable the deployment from here. So we do not have a custom domain, enforce HTTPS. Okay, we do not do that things. So GitHub page source is saved. So now our configuration, our things will be automatically, our pages, whatever we are running on pages, will be handled by GitHub Actions. Okay. Right now we do not. I think we have configured this one, so no need to do that. The domain, if you have personal domain, we can use that, but that is not an option. So remember, this is the deployment strategy, not to do with Git or CI/CD pipeline. So since these are in one place, it's easy that GitHub also allow us to publish this using GitHub Actions. But remember, these things are like the very easiest flow in a professional development or professional deployment. This is not going to be the same. We will be deploying somewhere else. We will have to configure that. That's where the SSH kind of things are coming in. And other things like the steps might be changing after checking out. There might be build, so on and so forth. So we have to be careful what we are doing, but for this static deployment, this would do. Okay, so if I go to actions again, once again, now you guys can see This one is failed. Okay, what we can do is, since we have enabled that, I can rerun the jobs. Okay, I will rerun all the jobs just to make sure the checkout is done. Otherwise, I can rerun the failed jobs, but to make sure, I will check out and do the rest. So I will rerun the job, and let's see what will happen. Since we have configured the things, hopefully nothing will go wrong unless there are more configuration to be done. So it is running the deploy job. Okay, and it has several steps. It's going to execute those steps. Think all 5 steps are done, and at the end you guys can see the output of our application, the end URL. So at the end, if you guys can remember, the environment has a URL parameter which was taken from there. Let me just open it for now. But if I go to the deployment section in here, now all the pipeline actions were successful. I think GitHub to deploy pages is the one that we need to be one we need to like look into. Nothing in here. Post checkout, I think these are like after completing job, these are not steps provided by us. Evaluating and setting environment URL. So if you guys can remember, we had check out environment. So let me go back to the code itself. What is the workflow? Static YAML. One thing in particular. So in here, you guys can see the deployment environment. So the name is GitHub Pages, and the URL, we took it from steps, deployment, output, and page URL. Okay, so this one is deploy to GitHub Pages. Let's see whether we have that step. We have checkout, upload, deploy to GitHub Pages, this one. Okay, and with the output section, do we have output section in here? Right now, I think we can't see it. With environment, GitHub Pages, don't think we have the output in log level. But whatever the output we are having, and we will take the output and we take the page URL. Right now, I don't think we can see that. Not sure why. Yeah, in this log, I can't see, but probably in the output, we get the URL, which is HTTPS Randika GitHub and SE, this URL. Okay, so we are setting that up. So whenever we go to deployment, we will get a URL which is representing where the file was get deployed, where the deployment happened, where the environment is there. The environment is there. So right now, we have a artifact that is like the build version of this. Okay, we can have that in here. That means the final binary output of this application. We are not interested in that much, but if you want, you can download it and see. It's going to be the same thing that we will see in the application. But for some reason, if you have like a build process where you have the latest build version, you will see it in GitHub pages in the compiled version. If you are building an Android application, you will see the APK file. If you build an iOS application and you have configured everything, you will feel ISO PKS or something, the binary. So for example, if you want to produce an exe file as output, you will get the artifact as this. Okay, so final build version you will get as artifact. If you are building a library, you will get the if you're building a Maven library or something like that, you will get the jar, and so on and so forth. Whatever the outcome will be saved in here. But right now we are not building any artifact, we are not creating anything, we are just deploying the static page. So it's not gonna even minify or anything. Nothing will happen. It's just give the content back to us. So if I go to HTTPS GitHub, this one, you guys can see the page is deployed right now. Okay, it's run the GitHub IO, and the page name that I am interested is in here. But if I inspect element, I think the images are not loading. That's because I think probably I have done a URL change. Yeah, so the bootstrap mean and everything is not working. Let me refresh the page. Oh, I do not have the image in here. Let me check the inspect element. So I have the list, but I do not have the image. Probably I did not incorporate it in the main branch. Let's see, and let's see in the main branch whether we have that in place. Index HTML. Yeah, I don't have the image in here right now. The image is not presented, but in our local machine, we have the index file represented. So let me open that in VS Code. Okay, now you guys can see the image is here, but the one in the main branch, we do not have that function, right? In the main branch, if you go to the main section, now you do not have that in here. So what we can do is we can update the master branch. If we update the master branch correct, it will do a deployment and it should update our GitHub pages. Okay, right now this is the local version and this is the live version. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll update some PRs, or we will update somehow we need to update the master branch. It will trigger a CI/CD pipeline and it will deploy. So let's go and see what we can do. So I have 9 pull requests. Either I can review one of these pull requests and see that works. So I will go to this Tarindu Hashan at name. Okay, so he has done file changes in here. Tarindu has entered his name on the top. I think this looks okay. And he's doing a main branch change from his branch. So I think I can review this change. I can say I will approve this. Okay, he's done a good job in here. I will submit the review. And I think there are no merge conflicts. Okay, I have no merge conflicts. So take a closer look. We have only 4 entries in here. Now with Tarindu's code, Tarindu's PR, we will have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Tarindu will have his name in list. And I think this is an open PR. Okay, I can merge this pull request, and remember it's gonna update our main branch. Okay, we have written our GitHub action to be triggered if something got merged into the main branch. So I will merge this request. I will confirm this merge. Okay. Now I think the pull request of Tarindu is going on. Let's see and go in action. Now you guys can see merge pull request from, I think this one is Tarindu's name. So his merge request is automatically triggering a build. Okay, now we are triggering a build, and his build got triggered. Now you guys can see the page is deployed. Now, moment of truth, this is the old one. If I refresh now, the pages should be deployed and Tarindu's name is here. Okay, so the CI/CD pipeline kicks in, the main branch works, and it is deployed in our GitHub page. Okay, so whenever we are changing something, you guys can see it is showing up in this section. Let's do some other pull requests and show you the things are working. So add my name, Pavani. Okay. So unfortunately, okay, Pavani has no merge conflict. Let's see how she has done it. Right now, Pavani has added her name on the bottom. Okay, so I do not see any issues with that. So I do not have to review anything because it's okay for me. I will merge the pull request. I will confirm the merge. That means I am accepting her a PR to my main branch. Okay, the main branch is updated. Now there should be an action triggering in because I have updated the main branch. Yes, and Pavani's PR is getting in place. It is doing all the jobs, only one job actually there, and it is executing all these steps. And I think that one also got successful. And you guys can see that the deployment, yes, we have a green check, so it's going okay. If I go in here now, only earlier we had 5. If everything goes well, Pavani's name should be on the bottom because she has added that in the last. Yes, you can see Pavani's name is also there, but she forgot to add space there. But that's not the point. I should do a good code review. That's my fault. So likewise, you guys can see whenever I am changing the main branch, my actions, my CI/CD pipelines kick in. Okay, those CI/CD pipeline have different steps, have different jobs. They are executing one by one, and my deployment in GitHub page deployment is doing it on jobs. Okay, so if I were to do this manually, I have to check out, I have to build, I have to upload the code, and I have to deploy this thing. So now everything is automated. I do not have to do anything. Only thing I have to do is make sure the main branch is stable. The code is correct. As long as the codes are correct, the deployments kick in, and the deployment will do its job. Okay, I don't have to do anything. The actions, the workflow that I have triggered in here, you can see the static workflow. It will kicks in on main branch update, and you guys can see these jobs are executing. You guys have seen that first, and the things will happen in this job is check out and set up and upload and deploy. Okay, these steps gonna execute one by one, and this job is gonna complete. So at the end, the code is check out, set up, everything is uploaded and deployed to GitHub pages. So I don't have to do these things manually every time. Every time the main branch get updated, the website, the GitHub pages get updated as well. So this is not limited to GitHub pages, or this is not limited to these deployment strategies. There can be more. There can be more steps. There can be more jobs, especially with the professional one, as I mentioned earlier. There will be building stages, building jobs. There will be testing jobs, and there will be deployment, and deployment is going to be not something like what we see in here. We can't use the um, provided ones like action checkouts and action configure pages. These things are customized for deployment a static page, but depending on your project, these steps and these things will change. Okay, so you have to make sure you know what are the jobs that you need to run, what are the steps that you need to execute, and also since this is heavily integrated with GitHub things, okay, the GitHub pages setup is actually done automatically for us. Okay, so we don't have to work on that much unless we enable GitHub pages. Okay, so those things do not expect in something out of GitHub workflow or GitHub pages. That is not going to happen. That's going to change. So right now, I want to just demonstrate what a CI/CD pipeline is, what are the things, what are the core concepts behind it, and how it works in real life. Okay. If we have time, we will look into more serious project setup where we have the build things, we have the deployments, we have the testing and everything. Right now, this demonstrate the CI/CD stuff or CI/CD things that are happening when we do a change. Okay, it's not always going to be the main branch. There can be branches, several branches. You can do branch-wise deployment. Yeah. There can be multiple deployment. In this scenario, we can't have multiple deployments because one repository has one page that we can do. But in your repositories, you can certainly work with deployments as you like. So there are more pull requests coming in. So unfortunately, Sumitra has to do some merge conflicts. Okay, so merge conflict should be updated and sent back as a review. That is good. So you, Sumitra, can work on these things. So index HTML has conflict. Sumitra have to change. Others will, I think, have to follow on that because the place that you are entering might be conflicting a lot because a lot of people are working on the index HTML and it's in the same place. Okay, so yeah, so you in here, I think you guys need to get the latest code and do the merge review, especially for this section. So a lot of PR is going to be, you have to review it again. So that's why I told you, sooner you put the PR, it easily can get closed because I am when we are trying these things, the order sometimes matter. So as soon as you put the PR, it will be easy. Okay. So update the PR again, and you will have the merge conflicts happening, as well as you guys can see the action in action, how these things are deployed into our static site. So I think we do not have the what do you call the issue to have so you have a lot of issues in here. If your issue is resolved, remove from, I think the current name is done. So if you guys can resolve the issue, so I can see less issues. And if you find this one is in your name, just close the issue by simply saying, okay, this is done. So it will reduce the issue count. And I have that image thing in a different, I can't remember. But anyhow, if I go to my branch, which I am currently in, I have added image to home screen, but I'm also lagging behind. So let me rebase in the main branch, and I will try to create a PR. So if you guys can remember, we did use the terminal. Right now, if you are familiar with the terminal, it's okay to use the VS Code extension that we get. But if you are not familiar with the terminal, please get your hands dirty by using the terminal, and then work with the VS Code extension. Do not get into a VS Code extension at first. It will not go well. So I have this 40 branch 45 add image to card screen, but I can't create a pull request for sure. I am outdated. So what I'll do is I will, in VS Code you have the source control section in here, and I will go to checkout section. This is something similar to Git checkout. Okay, I will check out to the main branch. Okay, now you guys can see the main branch is, even in my local machine, is not up to date. I have only 4, but in the master branch I have few. So what I'll do is I will get a pull. I'll click these 3 dots in here in source control, and I will create a pull. That means I will pull all the changes. If I'm lucky, yes, I got the latest changes in here. Okay, that's good. Now I have to do is I have to check out to the branch that I am working with, the 45 branch. Okay, this is the one, and it is lagging behind. So what I need to do is I will go here with the 3 dots, and I will say branch. I will go with rebase branch. That means I'm going to rebase my current branch with the selection branch. Right now, I'm going to rebase with my main branch, and you guys can see there are conflicts coming in. So current change have this, and my version have this. So what I will do is, so Pavani should be there as I can remember, yes. And the script should be here. But in my version, in my current change, the UL has changed. I have added the image only. So what I will do is I will accept both changes, and I will do the changes manually. So this UL should be gone. That is not how I intended. And this script also should go on, because I have the same script on the bottom. And I think that's pretty much it. And I can check in my local deployment whether this is okay. But I can just go with Go Live Server in here. Seems to be okay for me. Okay, at least. And I will create the mistake done by Pavani. I will add the space in here. And I do not like that background image, by the way. It's like terrifying. Did I go live, sir? Go live. Okay, at least I have some decent image in here. Okay, so once again, I have completed a merge request. I have done some changes. Normally, when we are doing merge conflict, we do not edit such a thing because it's gonna make the things a little bit harder to see. But for now, I will just do some edit in here as well. Yep. I have some requests to do a merge conflicts. Okay, now we will. For now, we will just I will merge conflict with this one, and since this is resolved, I will add this. Okay, and everything is done. And since I am rebasing, I will continue. And there are like no issues right now. And for here, I think I have got an issue. That's why I told you do not change code when you are rebasing. So there is an issue with the body and the image. I think I will go ahead with the current change. Okay, accept sorry, I'll accept the incoming change. So I do not need that background anyhow. Okay, I will add this one as well. So you guys can see when we are rebasing, we are going one step by step, one commit by commit. So I know these things are happening. So yeah, so my code seems to be working. Let me double check. Yeah, seems to be working. So no issues. I will stop my live server. And what I have to do is now I have to like push the code. Okay, push the changes to my branch. I will use push. I will probably not able to push because I have done a rebase. It will give me an error. Yes, I will, you can't push it. So what I will do is I will go to the GitHub repository and I will do a force push since I have changed a lot. So I will say git push force. So all my changes are forcefully pushed to that branch. Okay, I think everything is pushed to the branch, the 45 branch. Okay, 45 branch is pushed. Okay, forcefully updated. Let me go to, you can't see the, you won't see action going on for this. Okay, because I haven't pushed it to the main branch. I haven't updated the main branch. I need to update the main branch into action to pop on. But probably it will show me, okay, there can be a new PR that I can handle. Yes, you can see the 45 branch is updated. I will do compare and do a pull request. Yeah, I think I do not have any issues with the main branch, so I will create the pull request for that. And once I am done with the pull request, I think I do not have any conflicts because I have already merged every conflict with the main branch. So I will merge the confirmation. I'm not going to review my own code at least now, but it's good to you have look at the file changes that you have done. Okay, I have added this file. I have done these changes. And now there should be an action triggering on. Yes, pull request 45 from one leaker on issue 45. And if everything goes well, okay, it seems to be fine. And if I hit refresh now, should be image coming in. Yes, the image is coming in here and it is working as expected. All right. So I have demonstrated rebase today, and as well as I have demonstrated GitHub Actions as of now. So I have a question: how resolve my merge conflict? Who is that? Samira. Okay, Samira has question. So she need to resolve her pull request. Let me go back once again. Okay, Samira. It's she have a merge conflict in here with index file and file changes that she have done. Okay, this is the change that we have done. Samira have done a PR in here, but seems to be she's getting an error. I think last time we show how we can do the merge conflicts. Anyhow, I will do once more time so you guys can check it out. So we have the web editor. If you like, you can use the web editor, but I do not recommend for starting these things. You should always do it in your local machine so you guys get to know the things behind how to do the merge and everything. Or you can use the command line in here. That is like the most preferred way that I would do for beginners. If you are comfortable enough, then you guys can get things done easily. So if you go to command line option, you will get the instructions how you guys need to do the merge conflicts. So either I can show it from Sumira, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Sumira's machine, or I can show it in my machine. Sumira, what do you prefer? Would you like to do it from your end, or I can show it from my end? What's your preferred way?
So I can share my screen.
Okay, it is Sumira. Sorry, okay, Sumira. Sorry, you should have like he or she there. I got. Right. Sumira, you can share your screen and we'll get started how you can do that. You have the sharing permissions, right?
Mm, Not yet.
Mm, all participants. Okay, now you should be able to share. All good. You might need to share your whole screen, or if you are not comfortable, you can share VS Code at least, where you have the terminal and everything.
I can't share my screen. Did you give me permission?
Who can share? All participants who can start sharing someone else.
A message so you can start screen share.
Just close that and try it again. I have given full permission for all.
I said no.
Okay. All right. Let's see what's there. So let me take into my other screen so it's easy for me. Now you can see, Sumira, there is an issue, right? You need to merge your code, but unfortunately it is not allowing you to share it, right? Allowing it to merge. So you have to resolve this. So now the code has updated where you left off, and now things have got changed. Now what you need to do is you need to get the latest code and incorporate your PR and do the PR once again. Okay, you need to resolve the changes in your local machine. Okay, so you can see the resolve conflicts in here, like there. Okay, if you click on it, what do you get? Okay, so you guys can see that this is the change Sumira has done, but it is outdated. Now the at my name branch has Sumira there, but in conflicting with that, Pavani has done the change as well. So both of them are trying to insert a code section where both of them can occupy it. So it's need to be fixed. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to check out the latest one and add Sumira's code there, and we will update the PR once again. Okay, so you can see the conflict in here. Sumira, you can understand the conflict, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we need to do conflict resolution. You need to resolve this in your local machine. Okay, all right. So first, Sumira, you have to get the latest code, right? You need to get the latest code into your fork. You are living in the fork, so you need to get that latest code into your local code. So if you can open a terminal and open the latest code from there. Mhm. Okay. So first, I think we should check where you are. I mean, at least get What is the status? Let's give a Git status first. Then we see how are you doing so far. So you are currently on branch add my name, okay, and you are in your own fork. That means you are in you are in your own repository, right? You are not in the HRandika repository. So we can see what is the remote of that means where do you take your fork from by providing like something like git remote -v. Yeah, so you can see that you are working with your remote. That means where you gonna share your code, it's in your name, right? It's github.com, Sumira, and the project code. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to have check the update from my branch. Okay, you have to check, you have to get the upstream branch, that is my branch, into your local machine. You need to check that one as well. So there are a couple of ways that you can do. You can see you can get the fetch upstream. In that way you can um, get the latest things. So you will say git fetch upstream. Okay, I think you have not remote one, right? Let me check. First, I think you have to remove. You have to add the upstream first. I think you haven't add the upstream, right? So you have to say first copy the upstream URL. That means the original repository. Let's get the URL of that. That means my repository. You have to get the URL and add this as the upstream. It is gonna be like go to github.com. It's run the, I think that one. Yeah, that one. We have to go there, and no, you not the URL. You have to copy the SSH or HTTPS. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. This is like the web URL, but Git URL is different. You have to get code. Yeah, that one. Let's get the SSH one. You have SSH access, right? I think it should be fine. Okay, now you have to add the upstream. You have to just say git remote at upstream and my URL. Git remote add upstream. Upstream, you have to say name the remote upstream. Okay, so you are adding a new remote. That means you are adding a new place where you can get the code. Now if you git fetch upstream, authentication, yes, you have SSH setup, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have to say yes by ES since you are using the first time. GitHub is added. Now you are fetching from the upstream. That is the branch I was working on. Now if you git status right now, see where you at. Still should be in your machine, or you are in the upstream. No, you're in okay. Now what you have to do is now you need to check out to my you need to check out your branch. You are in the correct branch, right? You are in your correct branch, right? At my name.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you have to rebase with the upstream master branch. That means you are trying to get code changes from the upstream. So what you have to say, git rebase. I am rebasing my code. From where you're going to be rebasing? You have created what you call a remote, something called upstream. Yes, you have to say upstream. Origin, that means where is the origin of this? Where are you going to be? No, sorry. You don't have to pass origin. Go back, please. Up until upstream. Okay, you have to put the / there. Go back, no spaces. Okay, upstream, we are gonna get the code from the main branch. So I am gonna, what you're gonna do is, I am gonna rebase with upstream's main branch. So you have to put main there. You got the idea?
Yes.
So I am, you are in your branch, your correct branch, that is okay. Then I am gonna do a rebase on upstream. Upstream is the remote that that you have added, which is my GitHub repository and its main branch. If you want to do it your remote branch, that means your local machine, then you have to say remote main. If you do want to do it in your local branch, which is your branch is which is the branch in your local machine, you just have to say whatever the origin, whatever the branch name. Got it? Since you are referring it to the upstream branch, which is my branch, you have to specifically say where are you going to do your rebase with. Okay, now hit enter. Now we should run into conflicts. Okay, let's git status one more time, see whether you have conflicts. You should git status express. Okay, yes, you have a conflict. Now you have to resolve that conflict. I would recommend go with VS Code. You can say code dot here. You have code dot. Okay, all right. Now, if you maximize that and go to the source code management on the left, the third option, source control, then you guys you can see that there is a conflict in your index. Click on it. I think it's going to be the same thing right here. No, you have to click on the index.html file itself. There, okay, right. It's going to be the same thing. So you guys can, everyone can see that there is a conflict. There is a conflict with Pavani, and there is conflict with Sumira. Okay, so which one is the correct one? Is it going to be the current, or is it going to be the incoming change, or it's going to be the both? Which one is the correct one? So Sumira, you have to decide on that. Okay, in this case, which one is the correct one, Sumira?
Both changes.
Yes, it's going to be the both changes. You have to accept the both changes. Now you guys can see that Sumira has done his job. Now you can save it. Okay, now you are done. What you have to do is you have to your rebase is completed. Now you have to do the rebase. Commit the rebase and check whether you have done it correctly. If you say git status, now it should show everything is in order. Okay, you have done modified the index.html. Now you can continue it in here, or you can use the VS Code. I would recommend you do it in here. Git rebase -- continue. So you are doing the rebase one more time. Rebase continue. Okay, and go VS Code again. You will see another conflict for sure. Go up. Do you see any change? All right. Okay, you can add that file using VS Code. There is the add button on the index.html. There you go. Yes, add button. Click on it. stage the changes. Okay, now you can continue again, just use VS Code. Okay, now you can see there are no conflicts. If you go to Git status there, Git status, now everything is in order. Now what you have to do is your PR is updated, your code is not having any conflicts, all looks good. I think you don't have to see it in action because it's like a simple change. Now you have to do update your PR. You have to update your code. Okay, so you are in this branch. What you have to do is you have to push. Most probably you will get rejected. Let's just do push in there and try to submit it. It will get rejected because the changes that you have done in the branch and in your local machine are not aligning with each other. So what you have to do is you have to say, no, the local changes are final and it is working as expected. You have to force it. So git push force. Okay, make sure you are 100% correct after a rebase that your code is done. You have to do a good you force dash force. Okay, yeah. All right, now if you go to GitHub and your PR should be updated since you have updated your code, go to pull request. Yes. So now you can see there is no merge conflicts, right? There are no merge conflicts happening in your branch. So I can go and so your PR is completed, right? You don't have any merge conflicts, anything, right, Samir?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you can close the window. I will start sharing. So so now if I go to my pull request and Sumira's section, seems to be working fine. I can see the changes. Sumira has done his job. He has added it. And now the PR is ready to merge. I can say merge pull request and I'll say confirm. So what should happen? Action should trigger from Sumira's PR. And once it is done, Sumira's name should be available in this name. It after Pavani. Still building on. Yes, and if I hit refresh, yeah. So Sumira names got into the list. Okay. So I hope that explains with your thing, Sumira. Okay, take it as this. So everybody else will follow the same. Okay, you guys can if you are getting the conflicts, you have to update it fast and do a PR once again. So the faster you get these conflicts in place and fixing out, the more faster that you guys can get the name in your list. Okay, so the PR should be in here, so you guys get a nice experience on how you can rebase your code and get everything sorted out. Okay. So you guys have any questions? Anything? Any questions with the PR, with GitHub Actions? Okay. Hope everything is clear to you guys. So we just went into basic things with CI/CD pipeline. I have demonstrated how CI/CD pipeline, the new so what we have to do is we have the we have the CI/CD pipeline going on actions. Okay, so GitHub action is something like what do you call more it's a CI/CD pipeline, but it has its own language. Every CI/CD pipeline it's gonna have so every CI/CD pipeline have its like own way of doing these things. Okay, so what we can do is in here when we are working with each and every CI/CD pipelines, you guys should have basic understanding of its YAML language, the one that we have shown in here. It is something little bit different than what we that we had in what we had in the Bitbucket pipeline. Okay, so Bitbucket Bamboo pipeline. In GitHub Actions, they have different thing. So these are like hosted solutions. That means these are solutions provided by these are the solutions provided by these organizations like GitHub, Bitbucket, because they are closely coming with they are closely tied with the application Git, like the Git, sorry, the Git provider that we are using. But sometimes there are use cases. There are use cases where this kind of actions might not sufficient enough with our code. Sometimes we are not using any of these any of these CI/CD pipelines. There can be cases we need more customizations. There are some functionalities might be missing in such a scenario. Like it's okay that we have GitHub action for checking out and everything that's in place, but say for example we have more sophisticated or more customized version of build steps that we need to follow. In that scenario, we might not be able to use something like GitHub action. These GitHub actions will not work as we intended. So what we can do about those things is either we can there are like plugin ecosystems going on with these things, but it will be tight for these providers. So we can use CI/CD pipeline softwares, which is like made for us. CI/CD, okay, CI/CD pipeline. You guys might see some of the CI/CD pipelines available out there. So continuous integration and continuous deployment. Not sure it's gonna come up any solution, but anyhow. So one of the popular popular CI/CD pipeline automators is one. It is called Jenkins. Okay, so if you want a custom solution, something like that, you want to do something to do with more customized manner, you can use this Jenkins, which I think Jenkins was written in Java, if I'm not mistaken. So this is like a customized version of GitHub Action, where you can customize a lot of things that you can do. Most of the big organizations we use, if they don't use any pipeline like Bamboo pipeline, or they do not use something like GitHub Action, most probably they will be using something like Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins helps a lot of things, a lot of customization in terms of our application, and you will use you can use Jenkins to doing all kind of automations, but I'm not gonna go through each and every Jenkins step. Like it's gonna be a tough thing to configure Jenkins for you guys for second years. I do not believe that running a Jenkins pipeline, setting up Jenkins, setting up everything is gonna take a little bit of effort, but I'll try my best to make you guys get to know about these things, how Jenkins works, how these things are like working for deployment, what GitHub Actions or GitHub Bitbucket pipelines do under the hood. Those things can be teared down if you use something like Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is like the most popular one out there. There are other things like Spinnaker CI/CD. Spinnaker, yes, I think more sophisticated version. Spinnaker, an open source continuous delivery platform. Okay, you can use Spinnaker on various places, and you can use Spinnaker to do the automations for you guys. All right, so these are the CI/CD pipeline softwares out there, but setting up these things can take a little bit of time. Like we can use the GitHub YAML and we are done, but GitHub Actions with Bamboo pipelines are already set up. Okay, already set up, so you don't have to set up the CI/CD pipeline software for us. But if you want some more customization, then Spinnaker or Jenkins is one of the choices that you have to make in order to do your automations. Okay, so Jenkins is like there for a lot of time. We will see what we can do with Jenkins if we have some time, but I'm not going to go into too much deep in the Jenkins stuff, because it has a lot of plugin ecosystem where you can use to customize Jenkins. So if say for instance you want to automate Android builds, you will find some plugins which will help with you guys with Android deployment, how you're gonna build it, how you're gonna deploy it, that kind of things. You will get a lot of plugins where you can use. Okay, it's like what we have seen in GitHub Action steps. Like you can use these plugins in order to automate most of the time. So you guys don't need to write everything from scratch. Okay, so it's hard to give every it's hard to give what do you call Jenkins automation for each and every things that we do. Like, but most of the common ones, like deploying an application to AWS, easy to writing a test report using the Docker API. Likewise, most of the common things that we'll do is we can use with the Jenkins plugins. Okay, so but there can be things a plugin is not available, then you have to do all the plain old scripting. Okay, so we will practice a little bit of scripting on next lectures as well, because ultimately everything that comes into place is using some sort of scripting under the hood anyhow. Okay, so we will create a Bitbucket. Sorry, we will create a Jenkins script where we'll try to run what do you call test pipeline and all those kind of things. We'll see it in next lecture, so you guys won't miss it. Any question? What should be a good name for a commit when was resolving a merge conflict? Honestly, the question is, what is the good name for a commit for resolving a merge conflict? Most of the time, in my personal experience, I would just say rebase colon and whatever the branch name that I have been working with, rebase colon upstream main. That kind of thing is okay, because we know that is going to be a rebase. We don't need to explain what it has done, since its name suggests this is a rebase, and we have done a rebase with this branch. That is okay. But if you have done a merge, what I will do is I will say merge colon whatever the branch name. So that is like my preferences. Some organization might have different opinion on that, how you're gonna name the conflicts and everything. So don't if you do not have something, come up with on your own, like I do. But if you have something that you find out, okay, this is organizational pattern, this is how the organization does, you can use that one as well. That's up to you to use. I mean, there is no hard written manual how to write Git commit messages. It's up to the changes that you have done, but as long as it is meaningful, that is okay. Okay, any other questions? So we have a little bit of time to spare. So I hope you got the CI/CD pipeline concepts, how it works, what are the triggering points, and what are the other softwares available. Okay, especially Jenkins and all. Okay. If nothing, I'll stop sharing. I'll stop recording.